Hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Paranormal Gateway ParaTalk. If you don't already know who we are, my name is Teresa Kraft. I am the founder of Paranormal Truth Seekers, and my co-host is Scott Wise, and he is the founder of Ghostly Gateway Paranormal Investigations. We hope you all had an amazing week, and if you're joining us for the first time, we hope that you stick around. This will also get shared on YouTube. So if you're joining us on YouTube, again, we hope that you stick around and subscribe to our page. So we have a special guest joining us this week again. Someone that Scott has been looking very forward to getting onto our show. So he's very excited about this week. Joining us tonight is and I don't want to pronounce his last name wrong, so he can yell at me if I do later. But joining us tonight is Mike Ricksecker. Mike is an Amazon bestseller mystery author. He's a director. He's a producer. He has won the award for excellent media in the paranormal field at the 2019 Shockfest Film Festival. Mike has had articles published in places such as Paranormal Underground magazine and the Baltimore Sun and more. That's just two of them for you. He has appeared on multiple television shows and programs as a paranormal historian, including Animal Planet's The Haunted, Travel Channel's The Alaskan Triangle, Bio Channel's My Ghost Story, Ren TV's Mysteries of Mankind. He's been on Fox News, Fox 5 News. He's been on Fox 25 News, ABC 3 News. And he is the producer of his own internet shows, Ghost and Legend and Paranormal Roads and Friday Night Ghost Frights. On Tuesday nights, he hosts The Edge of the Rabbit Hole live stream show and Beyond the Shadows on the Haunted Road Media YouTube channel. Haunted Road Media is also his own paranormal and supernatural book publishing and video production company, which represents a number of paranormal authors. Mike serves the paranormal community as a paranormal investigator and Ghostorian with Society of the Haunted. He has nearly 30 years of involvement in this community already, and he regularly travels to speak about the supernatural phenomenon and writings. And on top of all of this, y'all, he is actually also a father of 4. Wow. I want to know how he does it all.
Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, Teresa and Scott. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
That was a mouthful.
It's a little bit. And Teresa, you did say my name correctly, so I appreciate it.
I used to live on a road that was Beesecker, so I'm like, okay, the last of it has to be pronounced Secker. If I'm wrong, he can yell at me later. I you know, and I've watched some of your YouTube videos and tried to make sure that I got it down just right. So
appreciate that.
I know accents and everything can kind of make things sound a little bit different too sometimes. So
yeah,
yes. And I hear it a lot.
I don't think I have
here.
too much of an accent, but you know.
Well, you guys are, well, you're a native to Ohio. Scott's he's been out there for a few years. But we're both from Pennsylvania originally, and since I've been out here in Indiana, I get it all the time. I get it all the time from these Hoosers out here that I have an accent. I'm like, y'all, I don't think I have an accent. I think I'm pretty.
It's the same with me too. I don't know.
It's so weird. Like, well, I don't hear it when I speak, but apparently I do.
I'll tell you. I mean, I was born in Ohio, and I do live here now. Graduated high school from Ohio, but in the middle of it all, I spent 10 years as a kid, basically from when I was 3 until I was 13, out in Massachusetts. So when I moved back to Ohio, I was getting that same thing that I had a funny accent, from New England. So. I did get that for a little while, yeah.
Yeah, and I can definitely hear the difference from somebody who is further up north like that than even down. Mm-hmm. We're more the Dutchy. We're more the Amish kind of Dutchy kind of,
right.
Yeah. Yeah, my
But
grandma's
you got the
pretty
Amish
tough.
out here in Indiana and Ohio too, so you would think that
Oh
would
yeah, yeah,
kind of like
absolutely.
mesh right on in, but
Yeah.
apparently not. So you are an absolute busy man. And
I got a few things going on.
the first thing that intrigues me, and I ask this a lot of some of our guests who, like you have a lot on your plate. You keep yourself busy in the paranormal community, which, hey, props, man. Like, I have a lot of respect for that. But you're also a father of 4. So how do you juggle all of this? How do you make it all work with, without spending too much time on one thing?
That's an excellent question. The secret is my kids are grown. So
there you go.
Okay.
So my youngest is in his freshman year of college, but the other 3, well, the oldest kind of went off and did his own thing. The other 2 have already graduated college and they're off living their lives. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So did you
But when it was of course when they were younger a lot more challenging. So basically,
right.
When they went to bed at about 9 o'clock at night, that's really kind of when my evening got started, and I was working on my writing and other things. And then my daughter investigated with me for a little while she was in high school. She was around 15, 16 years old. Yeah.
Nice. I like seeing the family. But I absolutely love that. I've got a 13-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 3-year-old, and my 13-year-old is constantly begging, like, "Mom, when can I come on an investigation?" I'm like, "No, not." He wanted to come along to Hinsdale with us the other weekend, and I'm like, "No, bud, that is not a place to be taking you for your first investigation."
Yeah, wait till they get a little older.
We'll go scope out some cemeteries or stuff first. Like, I gotta break you in first before we go doing something like that.
Yeah. But what would be good is just like a normal day tour of some historic location that is possibly also haunted, and so you kind of break them in a little bit that way. Yeah.
Yeah, we broke him in that way. We broke him in our old house. Our old house had a lot of activity in it. And now he sees the old man here at this house. The old man likes him at this house. I don't think he cares for me too much because I'm a tough mom. So he talks to the boys and not me.
Gotcha.
And I'm okay with that. Oh. So I also saw that you have had the privilege of actually working with Jack Osborne.
Oh yeah, on Fright Club. That was pretty recent here. That was a lot of fun. So everything was going on.
A lot of fun.
He wasn't. I had no idea when that whole thing went down. I had no idea it was going to be Jack Osborne and the Ghost Brothers. I'd met the Ghost Brothers before. Kind of one of them over here, 2 of them over there at different conferences and stuff. So I was familiar with those guys. And when that happened with Fright Club last year, of course, everything's going on with COVID, so nobody's flying out anywhere. We're doing everything remotely. And, I got asked if I could talk about shadow entities on a couple of episodes of, at that time, it was called My Paranormal Evidence. They hadn't renamed it to Fright Club. And so I was like, sure, I'll go ahead and do it. And so I was only talking with the producers at that point in time. And they're like, okay, we're going to get you on this Skype call. And, the guys are going to ask you questions. They didn't tell me who. And they sent me a couple of clips. Yeah, I was surprised. They sent me a couple of clips to watch and go over. Like, yeah, I could talk about that stuff. And then all of a sudden, when the Skype call went live, it's like, there's Jack and the Ghost Brothers. And I'm like, oh, hey, guys. So that was a lot of fun.
That'd be wild.
Yeah,
it wasn't. There was a lot of stuff that actually did not make the show. Of course, some banter that we had going back and forth that was pretty funny. Like there was with the one, it was Jack that was. He had said, "Well, could this possibly be an elemental?" And so they had a little back and forth going on with Jack and the Ghost Brothers. I think it was Dalen, and talking about could this possibly be an elemental? And then Dalen asked Jack, so what is an elemental? And Jack's like, Mike, what's an elemental?
I saw that. So
that was fun stuff.
For our viewers that don't understand what that is, because God, I don't even think we've done a lot of talking about that on our show yet. Can you explain what is an elemental in You can do it a lot better than we can. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's a type of entity. It's not human. It's associated with our elements of the earth. Earth, water, fire, air, and they're they're an entity that's associated with some sort of property. Like
Right.
when we talk about like earth elementals, we're talking like gnomes and fairies and things like that. An air elemental could be like some sort of mist. Water elementals could be, and this is kind of interesting when it comes to like the whole fairy and fae realm, that some of these could even be a mix, because like water sprites, is that really an earth elemental like other
Right.
fairies, or are they possibly like, or would they be a water elemental if they're hanging out there by the water? So there's some gray area with these things as well.
Right. There's a lot of gray area from
Mhm.
what we've come to kind of figure out with this field. It's because certain things can be presented as one thing, but then you can also present it as another. And when you can present it in two different kind of factors here, it leaves you in that gray area of, well, what exactly are we dealing with? What is this? And how can we easily explain it? It's hard to try to explain certain things with the paranormal to somebody who is, one, either just downright closed-minded, about the paranormal, or two, just they're open-minded about it, but they just don't know anything about it. So it kind of makes it very difficult to try to explain certain things, because this is a very vast field. There's a lot of different things that are involved in this field. It's not just, oh yeah, that's a ghost. It's not. And there are so many things involved with it. It's yes, I
There
cannot
are.
wait to read your book, because you're one about the shadows. I cannot wait to read that book. Scott's like, you got to get that book, Teresa. I'm like, I'm on it. I promise, I'm getting it.
Yeah, and even with that book, I leave it really open, as you make up your own mind what you think these things really may be, and I lay out a lot of different possibilities. I think that a kind of quote unquote true shadow person is an interdimensional being, but some of these are actually human spirits. Some may be astral projectors, some may be time travelers, they could be extraterrestrials. There's a lot of different possibilities as to what they could be, and so I leave it open to the interpretation of the reader.
I absolutely love your concept about how we could be dealing with something that is in a different dimension. You were telling a story about an investigation that you were going on, and that you had went on, and it was, you heard the sound of like the door that it had went through, and that was I don't know, like I'm so intrigued in stuff like that, and it puts a whole different concept on the paranormal when you really start to intertwine all of the other different factors. And when I read that, I was like, oh man, like this guy is on point. Like he's so on, because a lot of people still don't talk about that. It's just, I don't know if it's that they don't understand that this is something that could be a possibility, and you definitely can't write it off, because we're still learning so much when it comes to what this is all about. Like I absolutely love that story.
Yeah, and we really are still learning a lot about this. We do have to keep an open mind about these things. And yeah, that moment there, and that was a good 10, 11 years ago now. That
Now,
was
where were
one
you
that
at?
really, that was at at the time, it was a restaurant called Johnny V's. It was in Muskogee, Oklahoma.
Okay.
The restaurant had actually just shut down. They were closing up shop there, but the owners were letting us in there to go ahead and investigate like one last time. So I have no idea what the building is these days. And it had been many things throughout its life. It had been a dance hall at one point. It had been some other different shops. And so it had been a lot of different things. And at that point in time, it was a restaurant. But yeah, I had walked in through the main doors to the kitchen. We'd wrapped up the investigation. A couple of guys were up in the bar area just hanging out. A couple of others were in the front of the restaurant just talking. I'm doing a last photo sweep, getting some additional photos and whatnot. I walked through those main doors to the kitchen, and that shadow, it was just a wisp of a shadow. In my book, I have a lot of different types of shadows that I list. Wisp, yes, and so that one was the wisp, because it was very translucent. It was tall. And it was very, very fast, and it took off right across the room like I had scared it. And like you
Right.
said, it boom slammed into that door, and it was just it was the little side door that waiters and waitresses would carry large trays of food through. It was just real flimsy. You could like
Okay.
tap it with your
Yeah.
finger,
I know
and it
exactly
would.
what you're talking about. I'm in the
Yeah,
food
yeah.
business. Yep.
Okay, great.
Yep.
And yeah, and so it slammed into it, and the door didn't move. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I just witness here? I call out to the others, hey, did you guys hear that? And they're like, yeah, yeah, we heard that.
Yep.
And they're asking me what had happened. I start telling them, I'm like, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, wait a minute. Are these guys messing with me because I was on my own? And so I'm asking, did you guys throw something at the door? And they're like, no, 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 we didn't throw anything at the door. I'm like, all right.
They
I
were
went out
actually-
through that door. I'm looking around on the ground. No, they hadn't thrown anything. And even if they had thrown something at the door would have
It
moved.
probably would have
So,
moved.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So that's what is. I started questioning right then and there. Okay, what did I actually see here? This was not like your traditional ghost or anything like that. This was
Right.
something else. And, over the years, going through that incident again and again and again, doing additional research and having more experiences, what I've come up with at this point is that, we were witnessing the crossing of two different dimensions there. And I don't know what the catalyst would have been, but for
Right.
whatever reason, and you know, basically, when something like this happens, what I believe is that the two different dimensions or two different points in time are resonating at the same frequency. They have the same vibrational level for a brief moment. Again, why? I don't know, but this is what's going on. And it could have seen me as a shadow. Maybe it saw me as a ghost. I have no idea, but I scared it. And when it flew across that room, perhaps in its plane of existence, it crashed right through that door and it ran off into the dining room area.
Right.
But I didn't see it because in my physical plane of existence, that door is still closed, but yet sound works on a different wavelength. And
Yeah.
so I was able to actually hear it. I just couldn't see it because we're on two different dimensions.
Right. I absolutely love the whole dimensional thing. I wish more people would actually spend a little bit more time kind of outsourcing this when they're on investigations and stuff like that. And it's not just the dimensional thing, but you were also talking about like the time traveler thing too.
Mhm.
And that was, I mean, that's another thing that really, I think that's actually something that by now it does pique a lot of people's curiosity and interest, especially if you've seen some of the photos and some of the videos that are out there and on YouTube. They're public for you all to see. Go watch them for real. You should. But when you started talking about that as well, it really puts things out there in a different perspective when you have somebody like yourself who is willing to, you don't just call things out, you know what I mean? You go into detail and try to explain that, oh, well, it could be this and it could be this. And I'm not saying it's this, but if you look at the details, if you look at how this happened, there's a possibility that it could be this. And the whole time traveler thing, I think you had a YouTube video about it. And I was like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. And it kind of also wraps into the same kind of ball with the whole dimensional thing too. A different dimension, well, that would be a different time as well, quite possibly too. So if you kind of mix them all together, why aren't more investigation teams or research teams kind of, and I guess like when Scott and I were talking, it's okay, this guy is on to something, and you kind of educated me. You educated me, and it is definitely something after looking more into your work and especially how you word things. I will probably go into each and every single investigation from here on out with kind of a different look at different perspectives of things, because I have learned so much from you now about the dimensional thing and the time traveler thing as well. So what's the most basic thing that you can really kind of put it out there to our viewers about how you feel about the whole time traveler thing?
The most basic thing. Wow. Okay. Well, first of all,
Because we only
thank you
have an
for all
hour.
that.
You stay here with us all night.
Right. Well, thank you. I mean, you dished out some compliments in there, and I absolutely appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching the videos as well. Yeah, with the time traveler concept. Okay, so for me, the way I've tried to explain this, I believe that all time is working or operating concurrently. So past, present, future, all at the same time. And what I tried to illustrate is, instead of thinking of time as like a river of time, working in a linear fashion, point A
Right.
to point B, think of it, flip it basically up on its head and take just like a spot on the earth, wherever you're sitting right now, and think of every moment in that spot as a layer of a stack, like boom, 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 boom. You could take a snapshot of every moment that has happened, is happening, and will happen in that spot, and just stack them on top of each other. And so it's all happening concurrently.
Right.
And for some reason, again, not really sure what the catalyst is, there are two moments along that stack that happen to, whether it's vibrational, again, maybe some sort of frequency that two are vibrating the same frequency, maybe call an echo, and for whatever reason they overlap each other, or they echo on the same frequency or resonate in the same frequency for a brief moment, and we suddenly see another point in time.
Right.
There are people that have reported seeing like somebody in a Victorian dress, and that woman looks at them like they are the ones seeing the ghost. My friend Andrea Perrin, she talks about at the Conjuring house that there,
Oh, yes.
she and her mother witnessed from the parlor into the dining room, it was a colonial era family that just suddenly materialized in the dining room. There were two guys sitting at a table. There were a couple of children running around. There was a woman cooking over an open hearth. And at that point in time, the fireplace had been closed off, and the table that these guys were sitting at suddenly was a different table. Really, really interesting. And the two guys look at Andrea's mother, and the one says to the other, "Well, will you look at that?" As if she's the ghost. And what's interesting about that is, okay, the parents are getting a glimpse of the past, probably around the 1700s, based on some of the things that they were seeing and witnessing. But those men who looked at them were actually getting a glimpse of the future. Really,
Right.
really interesting. So that would be what we'd
It
call
is.
a time slip.
Wow.
Yeah. And
That'd be wild. I
now,
can't imagine it.
could you like, that would be crazy to, and it, it, I think when I read his perception of this and the whole, like the layering thing of it, do you know what that made me think of, Scott? That
The
picture we
others.
saw at the damn Hinsdale house,
No.
where
Yeah.
the living room was in, what was it? No, the kitchen was in the living room, or the living room was in the kitchen.
Yeah.
In that one, and I'm like, okay, like, could this, even pictures, I know, like, people have caught things on pictures where it's like, that's not my room, that's not, I mean, it's my room, but it's not my room, it's showing. And that's exactly what that woman
Right.
showed us at the Hinsdale house,
I've
where,
I've seen the photo. I just saw that photo this past week, and I've seen that,
oh, you
and
did?
I've seen other ones that are really interesting. One
Yeah.
was at a cemetery out in it was Earlsboro, Oklahoma, and the person was just taking a snapshot of this bush that was growing up over a headstone. And what was really interesting about this is that in the photo, there was this bar of light from about almost halfway across the photo from the left. And extending from that bar of light was almost like, I could only describe it as like a plasma, and it kind of faded off to the right side. But in that, you could see like somebody's sitting room. There's
Oh,
like a room
okay.
beyond. And it's like you're looking at that. It's basically it was like a portal opened up right there. With the naked eye, you can't see
Yeah.
it, but yet there it was in the photo. And speaking of the Conjuring house, this is something that is part of my Shadow Dimension docuseries that's coming out. I'll give you guys a little kind of sneak peek as to what to expect. It'll be
Okay.
coming out here very soon. One of the things that I had captured on film there in the upstairs, people who are familiar with the house will remember that there is an interior window between the two bedrooms up there. Like the part of the house had been added onto at one
Okay.
point. So there's
Yeah.
this window between two rooms that used to be an exterior window, but now they call it an interior window. And there's a lot of activity that goes on around that area. And from that interior window, there's a part of the wall and then the doorway into the room beyond. Well, in this photo, everything in the foreground is clear. But once you get to that window and then the doorway and what's beyond, everything does this shift. And what's beyond in that room, like what's behind the wall, is the actual exterior window that goes out to the house. But you can't see it with your eyes because the wall's in the way. However,
Right.
in this photo, there's that actual exterior window behind the wall transitioned across the room. You can actually see it through the doorway, and it's where the there's a chalkboard against the one wall, and that window's right where the chalkboard is. And you're looking at it like, how in the world is the window that I can't see because it's behind the wall actually here at the chalkboard? You know, so yeah, so you know, scratching my head, I know that there's a lot of activity that goes on there. I have felt it.
Right.
You know, people have reported the shadow smoke there. I had Carl Johnson up there recounting the story of the shadow smoke up there,
Carl.
which was really cool. And I'm looking at that. Okay, there's definitely some energy going on here, and there's something. I ended up calling it interdimensional phasing.
Yeah, I mean, what
because
else
to me,
can
it's a
you
phase
call it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. The Conjuring House is a place that we have to get to, Scott.
No,
Like, I'm going to call
definitely.
John, too, and be like, hey, John, you want to come with us to the Conjuring House? Because, he's got so much experience being there and living there and everything else. But, I've already told John, like, if we ever get there to investigate, you're more than welcome to come with us. Because that's the place that I definitely want to get to.
Yeah, you'll love it there. It's fantastic.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. And if we get pictures like that too, yes. This whole field alone is so intriguing. But when you start to actually talk to other people who have the same kind of mindset as you, and okay, they're not just out there looking for ghosts. You know what I mean? Like, you bring a whole new perspective into this field. And there's some other ones who they are more willing to talk about all of the different aspects of the paranormal field. It's not just, you're going out looking for spoogly boos and, past life people. And, you're putting everything out there for people to be open-minded to and to investigate and research. Now, if they all hear you or not, that's another thing. But it's interesting.
Right.
So what Scott wanted to ask you this. Do you want to ask him about what got him all started in this?
Oh yeah. I will ask you when the youngest that you were actually knew about it, but the youngest experience that you had. How old were you? And
well, the first significant paranormal experience that I had as a kid was when I was about 8 years old. I woke up in the middle of the night, and there was this tall, dark figure standing in the corner of my room. Today, of course, we would call that, a shadow figure or a shadow entity or whatever. I had no idea from that at that point in time. I just thought there was an intruder in the room, and it was about to kill me, because that's about what you think at 8 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 8. Yeah. I don't know from these things. I've seen Scooby-Doo, but I'm not thinking that. I'd seen enough on TV that, I knew that this thing was going to come up to me, and I'd have enough time to gasp and it was going to kill me, right? But I'm still alive to tell the tale.
yeah.
Take off his mask. There you go. And have another mask under it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
he would have got away with it too if it wasn't for this meddling kid.
That's right.
So in any case, So I'm scared, I'm frightened, I'm trying to scream, but I'm so terrified at the time. My mouth opens and nothing's coming out. And then it did something really bizarre. It came up to my bed, leaned over. I'm staring up into this face, but there's nothing there. So there's no eyes, no nose, no mouth, nothing. It's just all black. But this thing grabbed me by the wrists, crossed my arms across my body, and then it ran off down the hall. And I turned and I watched it go down the hall. Finally found my voice, found my legs, ran off screaming to my parents' bedroom. Of course, they were trying to tell me that I just had a bad dream. They're trying to console me, all that. And, I knew I had not
You're crazy,
had
Mike.
a bad
Crazy.
dream. Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
crazy, right?
Actually bad.
Yeah.
So that was the first significant paranormal experience. Yeah.
And is that what really started? I mean, were there more things that kind of happened after that as you were a child that kind of got you where you are now in all of this? Or was there some time?
There were. When I was a young teenager, a few other things happened. So we moved from that house in Massachusetts to a new house in Ohio. And as I'm unpacking boxes and putting things away, I started noticing this figure standing in my doorway. And I turn and look, and it would, run off down the hall. And that one was a much smaller hallway. So I say down the hall, but it was kind of like off to my parents' bedroom, just right over there. This happened several times. I'd be unpacking a box, putting something away, and this thing would stand there in the door. I'd turn and look, and there it would go. And so this happened for a couple of days. I ended up asking my mother about it, and I guess she thought I was a little bit more mature at the time because now I'm 13. I'm a teenager, I guess. I don't know. And she actually admitted that she had seen the thing too. And she was really just very nonchalant about it. She didn't seem very concerned. It was great that she affirmed for me that I had seen this thing and I wasn't crazy. But because she wasn't alarmed, I wasn't alarmed either. So I got very playful with this thing, and I started calling him Tom, like Peeping Tom. So anytime I'd see him, then I'd say, "Hi, Tom," and he'd go running off.
Keep up in my business again.
Yeah. So that happened for about 3 or 4 months, and the activity subsided and never really saw him again. So I just chalked it up to, okay, something was there, was interested in who we are. We were the new people in the house, deemed that we were okay, and went about its business. Around that time, it was so into that move when we moved, from Massachusetts. My mother bought me the book Yankee Ghost by Hans Holzer. So I started reading that. I was absolutely fascinated. And I got to like the second story, and I was like, wait a minute, these are actually true stories. Whoa, okay, this is cool. It's a little different. So I started reading Hans Holzer at age 13. At age 14, I started reading the Amityville Horror, and I was fascinated by that. I was like, oh, I got to go to that house. My little girlfriend at the time thought I was crazy. She's like, you don't want to go to the house? I'm like, yeah, I do.
You're gonna die, man. Don't go to that house.
Right. So, and then not long after that, I had what I call my first paranormal investigation, even though I had no idea that's what we were doing at the time. Because back then we're talking late 80s, early 90s. It's not a term, paranormal investigation, that we didn't really have in our everyday lexicon back then. I mean, they kind of referred to that on the show In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy, but we didn't have all paranormal shows like today. Yeah.
Right.
So my friend David and I were at our friend Lori's house, and we're just kind of shooting the breeze in her living room, teen drama, all that fun stuff. And she was, who likes who, and all that great stuff. And she lived in an older house in the downtown area of our town, and all of a sudden she says, I think my house is haunted. And we're like, oh, this is cool. So, okay, why do you think your house is haunted? So she's telling us about the old family cemetery that's in the backyard, and different things going on around the house. And the main thing for her was in her bedroom. She had this wall that she would always tack stuff up on, and then it would fall down. She's trying to hang posters and things like that, and everything would always fall down. Whether it was an hour, a day, a week later, the stuff would fall down. So she was really, really frustrated. And, she thinks it's haunted. So, okay, we're going to go upstairs and we're going to investigate. So this is our first little investigation. So we go up there, we're looking around, checking out the wall. She's going on with more of the story and all that stuff. My friend David, I did not realize at the time that he was like an extremely sensitive guy, like ultra sensitive. He put his hand flat to the wall like that, and all of a sudden he turned this bright red and started sweating profusely. And I'm looking at David like, oh my gosh, what's going on with my friend? I've never seen anything like this before. This was nuts. And so he started going from like wall to wall in the house to see if there were like any more kind of quote unquote hot spots. And so that was the moment that I knew that this is something I was absolutely fascinated in. This was something I was going to be involved with for the rest of my life.
Wow. And it's so weird because no, Scott, you're the oddball here, buddy. I'm sorry, but a lot of people come into this field because they did have experiences when they were younger, and it leaves you in such a state of curiosity. And I know for me, it started very young for me. I was about your age too when I realized what was happening. It was probably happening before then, but I wasn't paying no mind to it, nor did I quite understand what was going on. I just knew there was stuff going on. But it was probably 7 or 8 years old where it was like, okay, that rocking chair should not be rocking on its own right now. What is going on here? Like, you can begin to start to realize that what you're seeing, what you're hearing is not of normalcy, So I think that's what gets a lot of people as becoming an investigator or a researcher, or, unless you're Scott. And he waited to blossom out, but at least with you though, Scott, it was your curiosity though. You didn't have experiences when you were a kid,
Right.
But it was your curiosity.
When I was younger, I did a lot of research, read a lot of books about it, and once I got to the point that I could, with the fear that got settled enough, then I decided to go out into the investigation. And like I said, I read Hans Holzer too, and saw other books back then, and that intrigued me, and I just joined a group with them from there. And
we all grew up with the Warrens. All grew up with the Warrens.
Yeah,
love the Warrens.
Yeah. If you didn't know who the Warrens were, you were not in the paranormal community.
So, but since then, I mean, I'm more open to when I go on vacations. I go myself up more to the environment, and I pick more stuff up, like 3APs, and I can hear whispers and.
Yeah, we talk a lot about using your own body as your first and kind of foremost tool and device. Like when we were on the Mark and Joe show, like they had actually they asked us, what devices do you use? And I was like, well, first and foremost for me it's my body. Like, and they're like,
That's always my answer too. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people don't understand that we all have these certain abilities about us. It's all up to what you are willing to start exposing yourself to, what you're willing to open yourself up to. I can't. It's crazy for me as a mom, and you guys are dads as well. So as parents, it's crazy to see your child at teenage years, my oldest 13, to see and watch him experience something that is within the paranormal realm. And I know grown ass adults who would be so close-minded to that. They would never get to experience something like that because they're absolutely close-minded about it. It's not a possibility. The paranormal does not exist. Like, the interdimension thing, they don't believe in that either. They don't believe in time traveling. They don't believe in, how many of the other things that we deal with, just the cryptos. It's not just about, human entities either. You deal with the cryptos as well in this field. Now, how do you feel about cryptos? Because we haven't talked about that yet.
Yeah, we haven't. I mean, I'm certainly, it's something I'm certainly open to. I've heard a lot of interesting stories. I've seen some things that, certainly could be some sort of cryptid or what have you. So I mean, I keep an open mind to all of these different things. I'm not somebody that goes, out there looking for, Sasquatch every week, and I leave that to, the other guys, but
Yes.
I'm certainly open to it. The idea that there are, maybe small pockets of, these type of creatures that are out there. Why not? We come across weird and strange, interesting creatures all the time. When we had the show, the Alaska Triangle, the idea of just like maybe a small pocket of woolly mammoths, perhaps still being out there. That's not even a cryptid. That's an actual animal that we know existed. But is there possibly a small pocket of them that still exists in Alaska? And so that question is out there. And so it's so you could certainly have small pockets of these type of creatures that are out there.
We have to talk about that too, because I think you are the only person now that I have come across to be very open about the fact that, look, there is not just a Bermudian triangle. We've got the Alaskan triangle. But there's like 4 or 5 different ones that you have now put out there to people.
There are a lot of different ones, and I won't say that I put it out there. I mean, this is I've compiled all of this stuff. I am working on a book about the Alaska Triangle, and I do touch briefly on a number of those in one of the chapters on the other ones. But yeah, other people have done this work, like the Bridgewater Triangle. You talk to people like Jeff Belanger or Lauren Coleman, those guys out there in Massachusetts who've done the research out there for decades on that. You've got the Nevada Triangle. There's the Dragon Triangle that they've been talking about for hundreds of years out in Japan. Yeah. It's really, really interesting stuff. So you have these triangle areas all over the world, and really it's the Bermuda Triangle that kind of coined that term, triangle. But I think what's happened is over the years, people have kind of realized, wait a minute, that same phenomena that happens there in that Bermuda Triangle happens in these other locations in the world. And, people have realized, okay, this is actually, they have the same type of properties, that same vortex energy that's welling up from the magnetic core of the Earth and causing a lot of this strange phenomenon to happen, whether it's, these strange disappearances, a lot of these cryptid sightings, strange geological things going on in the area. Just, heck, when I was first up there in Alaska, I was stationed there for 3 years in the Air Force from 92 to 95. And within the first few months that I was up there, when I jumped off the airplane, there was still ash falling from the sky from a volcano. But within the first few months, there was a plane taking off from the Anchorage airport, and just the engine fell right off the airplane into a parking lot of a supermarket. It's like, what in the world is happening up here? It's crazy stuff.
Yeah, how does something like that happen?
The world. Oh, God.
Yeah.
I would not want to be on that plane. Yeah.
You're on the ground, that's what.
Yeah, but you hear about a lot of these, airplanes going, missing without a trace, ships and all those, sorts of things. And, these people are never heard from or seen again. And, there's search parties, thousands of people out there looking, millions of dollars spent looking for them. They're never found. The one that we covered significantly on the Alaska Triangle television show, The Missing Douglas, it was just a couple of weeks later after that huge Douglas Skymaster went missing that a smaller plane crashed in the same area. They found it immediately. Everybody was pretty much fine, by the way. But how is it that you find this little tiny plane and basically around the same area that this huge one went missing? You can't find anything of the big one, but the little one, not a problem. It's crazy. Yeah,
that is crazy. I think I've probably seen every episode now of the Alaskan Triangle. And I'll tell you why. Because,
thank you.
my husband has this job where he gets to, if he wants to, he can relocate and everything else. And one of the places that we have been talking about going now for probably about 7 years is Alaska. And I'm like, you need to watch this. Okay. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's beautiful in Alaska, but I'm going, man, something's gonna happen and we're just gonna fall off the face of the planet and they're never gonna find us again. Like
this is what I'll say about Alaska. It is an amazing place to visit. Absolutely beautiful. There's a lot to do up there. The countryside is gorgeous. but to live there is difficult because
I
the
bet.
winters drag on for so long. There's a lot of alcoholism up there. There's a lot of
Yes,
suicide
there's a
up
lot
there,
of,
which
yeah.
is very unfortunate because you're basically talking from October to about May is winter. I mean, it might start, loosening up a little bit in April. You go through what they call spring breakup.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, you're talking months upon months upon months of winter. And, where I was in a secure facility in the basement of a building.
Right.
And if I did not go out for lunch during that day, I didn't see the sun for that whole day. Now, in the summer, it's the opposite, in which
Right.
it's light all the time, but
Mhm.
it's a short window with those summer months. So what I tell people is, it's a beautiful place to visit. Go up there, go enjoy it. You
Yeah.
don't want to live there. I mean,
Yeah.
some people love living up there, and it's like more power to you, but
Yeah,
it's kind of
I mean,
crazy.
he's
Yeah.
all about the cold, and he's all about I'm all about the warm. I'm like,
Mhm.
we're total opposites that way. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. It's absolutely beautiful.
It is.
Mm.
It's really
But
gorgeous. Yes.
I don't know, unless you're going to build me a big, huge house in just the absolute middle of nowhere, like where I don't have to worry about all the druggies and the alcoholism and I don't know. Like, I just don't know. The boys might love it, but I
Yeah.
don't like cold weather.
Mm.
He can
Yeah,
move there
It
on his
makes
damn
it tough.
own.
I mean, it's beautiful. Again, looking at even during the winter, you get to
Mhm.
see these gorgeous snow-covered mountains. You get to see the aurora borealis. That's absolutely
Oh,
beautiful.
yes,
But it
that,
just drags on. It
yeah.
does, unfortunately. So.
And the whole daylight and then it being night for so long too
Mhm.
is something that I think would absolutely just drive me crazy after a while. And I mean, and there's been people that have gone there to move there and they're just not prepared for what they're going to deal with, and it drives them batty.
Yeah, it's a whole
Yeah,
different
I don't.
world. Yep.
It is. It absolutely is. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about something, and I haven't seen, unless I missed it, but I haven't seen anything with you really talking about your thoughts and opinions on like sleep paralysis
Oh,
and what are your thoughts and opinions? Because I know like some people when they go through sleep paralysis, it's like, this is a negative entity. This is the term that we hear an awful lot is this is something demonic that is
okay.
doing this to me. So I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on this.
So in this book, Walk in the Shadows, there's an entire section
Okay.
on that.
Okay.
Yeah, sleep paralysis, it's a real biological phenomenon, and I've actually experienced it a couple of times. But it is separate from the actual shadow phenomenon. The medical community likes to link the two together, and they like to say that, when you wake up and you're experiencing sleep paralysis and you're seeing these shadow entities, that these shadow entities are just a hallucination from your dream. And I have a number of different problems here with this. For one, we dream about all different kinds of things. We don't just dream about people.
Right.
You dream about, it could be a car or a motorcycle. There could be trees in your dreams, planes flying overhead. I've had dreams of being on stage with Motley Crue, and I've never woken up to like 10,000 people in the
Being on
audience.
stage with
Pyrotechnics
Motley
going
Crue.
on. That would be awesome. It would be fun to wake up to that,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah. But that's not what happens. People report waking up and seeing, this shadow entity there. This person standing there. I've also, like I said, I've experienced real sleep paralysis a couple of different times. Never saw any shadows at all during my sleep paralysis experiences. Doesn't mean others haven't.
Right.
But people see shadow entities at all different kinds. I've only seen one shadow entity related to sleep in my life. That was the very first incident that I had, that story that I told a while ago. I woke up. I was wide awake for it, was not asleep at all. I was able to move, didn't have sleep paralysis. My arms crossed. I was able to turn my head and watch the thing run down the hall. That's why I wasn't paralyzed during this.
Right.
And the other shadow entities that I've seen, I was up awake, moving around on investigations, the one putting things away in my bedroom. So it had nothing to do with sleep. What I think is going on here, really, when it comes to sleep paralysis, and then the shadow phenomenon. I think there are two different types of phenomena that just happen to happen at the same time. Again, with the sleep paralysis, real biological phenomenon. Our bodies, so that we don't act out our dreams while we're sleeping, will paralyze us so that we don't
Right.
do that. It can also happen kind of the opposite way, which is what happened to me. In that my body was so exhausted, so tired that my body shut down. It turned off. It went to sleep, but my mind was still awake, which was really freaky because the couple of
Yeah.
times this happened, it was like 17 years apart, but both of them were during situations where I was at work. And so, I didn't want to get in trouble for sleeping on the job, and because I'm hearing everything going on around me, and it's like, okay, this is not good. And I was able to coax myself back awake, just kind of slowly. Can I wiggle a toe? Okay, I can wiggle a toe. Can I wiggle a foot? And able to get myself out, kind of working up my body like that. But it was definitely frightening, especially the first time that happened. Had never experienced that. So, okay, it's a real biological phenomenon. Now, you have kids, so you would understand this. So people who have had children are very familiar with child wakes up in the middle of the night, they come up to your bed and they want something, whether they had a bad dream, they want a glass of water, need to go to the bathroom, whatever it is. My youngest child, Cameron, was notorious for just coming up to the bed and not like tapping me on the shoulder or shaking me awake. He would just stand there and just stare at me.
Yes.
You've had that happen?
Yes.
It's
My
creepy. You just wake
7-year-old
up
does
like, oh my
that.
God, what are you doing? And
Yes.
I need to go to the bathroom. Okay, I had a bad dream. Okay, we'll take care of it. But what is it that woke you up? Because all they were doing was standing there and staring at you. What woke me up with Cameron was their energy, their presence. You could feel that. We each
Yes.
have a toroidal energy field around us that extends out several feet. So when they come up to the bed and they're just standing there, your energy fields are crossing each other and you're able to feel that. And that's what's waking you up, like, oh my gosh, okay, oh, you're there standing there and you need something. Cool. The same thing is happening with the shadow entity. You are waking up because you feel their presence in the room. And it could be at the end of your bed, could be in the corner. Some people report, the shadow person being next to the bed like that. And so you're feeling their energy, you're feeling their presence, and you wake up. And sometimes you just happen to be in a state of sleep paralysis when that happens, because sleep paralysis is a natural biological phenomenon.
Right.
It happens. And so what ends up happening then is, somebody wakes up, they see the figure standing there. They're frightened because, again, there's an intruder in my room. Oh my God, what's
Yes.
going on? I'm paralyzed. Holy crap, what's going on? And then when it finally registers, there's a shadow figure. And so they start, putting all these things together of, the shadow person is making me have the sleep paralysis and things like that. It's like, no, the shadow person is not making you have the sleep paralysis. You are naturally having the sleep paralysis. The shadow person woke you up just by being there. Their presence woke you up. But
Right.
yeah, they're two different things happening at the same time.
Okay, that's interesting. I know I've had it happen before too, and I
Yeah.
like 3 times now. I think it's happened for me. What scared me was the one time that it happened. I was big, fat, and huge, pregnant with my one son, and it does make sense now that you kind of put it that way, because I had actually seen 3 shadows standing at my bedroom door. And I ended up, I had to pee so bad after I woke up, and I'd come to and I'd realized what was going on, but my legs still did not want to work.
Yeah.
So I literally ended up crawling to the bathroom so I could go to the bathroom. And I mean, I probably sat awake for a good 2-3 hours after that and just tried to figure out what the heck just happened. I'm used to seeing shadows. I'm used to seeing, I'm used to seeing that kind of stuff. I've been dealing with it since I was a kid, but that I could not for the life of me understand why I felt the way that I felt when I woke up, why I couldn't move, why I couldn't even speak. I couldn't even yell for my husband. I was just, so I'm glad you kind of put it out there like that. I never thought
Well, I
about
hope
that.
that was able to
It
help.
does
Yeah.
make total sense. That does actually make total sense. But yeah, and a lot of people are scared by it. They do think that it is something in relation to what you're seeing. It's that shadow that is doing this to
Right.
you. It's, and we know that the chances of that happening are actually very unlikely. Most people actually do come across good entities or spirits versus something that is out to really cause harm or malicious, or you know what I mean? At least in
Right.
my encounters, we're not coming across demons at every place we go investigate.
Right. Yeah. Well,
They're
yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah. Not everything's a demon. Yeah. And people fear what they don't understand.
Yes.
And I totally get that. But yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people have painted shadow entities as being like the darkest of the dark and the evil of the most evil things. And it's just like, some of these shadow entities are just like somebody's Aunt Trudy that has
Yes.
shown up and they're looking in on somebody. Some of them. So a lot of these are actually human spirits, and they're not evil. I've seen the apparition of a little girl morph out of shadow smoke, and you're not going to tell me that the little girl is evil. I'm sorry.
Right.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Right. So you have, now I did not mention everything. I know I did not mention everything that you have going on. I think I did leave out a couple of some of the places that you had articles actually, posted and stuff like that. I only listed 2 of them. So do you want to kind of just let everyone know what all you
Sure.
do have going on, what all you do have published? I know you have a few different books. We've talked about one so far, but you actually have several books. So where can everyone find you? What, how can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me MikeRicksecker.com. That's my primary website. The big project right now has been the Shadow Dimension docuseries. So where I delve into all of this all these different types of things that we've been talking about, but actually going to locations and searching out this type of shadow phenomenon and seeing if we can find some answers to this. So it's 6 episodes. Will be coming out very soon. Everything's with the distributor right now, and I just got word a couple of days ago that it is being placed on some different services, but I don't have any dates as far as release. But we're looking like over the next month or 2, it will actually be released. And so primary locations are the Conjuring House and Mineral Springs Hotel in Alton, Illinois.
Oh, cool.
Absolutely fascinating. Got some great people involved with this, like Carl Johnson, Andrea Perrin, Johnny Enoch, Alexandra Holzer's involved. So
Oh, wow.
a lot of great people. And so, so that's the Shadow Dimension docuseries. And then to go along with that, I have the Connected Universe Portal website, which is connecteduniverseportal.com. It's a site in which I'm teaching courses on like shadow entities and other phenomenon. And then I have a membership site that has we have like monthly Q&A videos and all kinds of articles. There's behind the scenes and sneak peek videos and just all kinds of stuff out there for people to really dive into and get more information about these things.
Okay. And then are all of your books, they can be found on Amazon, correct?
All the books can be found on Amazon. You can go through my website if you want, or just look up my name on Amazon. You'll find it all there. Yep.
Okay. And you're also on Twitter and you're on Facebook.
Right, and Instagram, and pretty much all over social media, TikTok.
TikTok. I should
Crazy how much you have to keep up with. Yeah,
it is. It absolutely is. And that's why I said in the beginning, like, you really have a lot going on. I know how hard it can be, and I don't have near as much as what you have going on, but it's all the different social media outlets that, I keep up to date with, the website I keep up to date with. And now your kids are grown, but I'm still chasing ones around the house.
Yeah, so you have a lot more work to do.
It can be interesting some days. Absolutely, no doubt. But so is there anything else that we really didn't talk about that you?
A couple of events that are coming up here really soon. So there's the Parapsychon at Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio. That's May 22nd, 23rd, which is going to be amazing. That's a fantastic building if you haven't been there yet. Okay, fantastic. I'll be happy to meet you guys. directly after that, June 6th to 12th, is the Laughlin UFO Mega Conference in Laughlin, Nevada. It's a week-long conference. If you can't attend it physically, because with Nevada's rules right now, they can only let 250 people into the building. You can attend it virtually. So a virtual conference is available for that. And then seriously, directly after that, within a few days, July 18th through or June 18th through July 2nd, it's the Return of the Kepler Cycle tour in Egypt. So if anybody wants to join us for that, you can jump right on that as well.
Yeah, I saw that. I did see that earlier. I was like, man.
It's going to be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's actually going to be Shadow Dimension Season 2. I'm filming part of that there in Egypt. So that's going to be awesome.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. See, we need to hang out with this guy more often. Like,
well, he said he's right down the road from me, so.
Yeah, you're right down the road. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe for you, Scott. Okay, just smear that one on in there too, buddy.
Well,
I love you too, man.
Every chance I get, I have to do that because you're always
I know.
on.
I know.
We had to go all the way out to Indiana. Jeez.
Well, I'm only 2.5 hours, 3 hours away from Scott. And
okay, where in Indiana?
Columbus, like Anderson, Muncie kind of area.
Oh, Muncie. Okay, sure. I know where that's at. Yeah. I should drive by there all the time.
Yeah, I'm like 40 minutes north of Indianapolis, which I'm okay with being out of Indianapolis. But yeah, I go 5 minutes one way and it's nothing but cornfields. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Very cool.
So I won't complain too much, but yes, we are looking forward to the Paracon because him and I, Scott and I, will be there on Saturday. So we're definitely going to have to find you and get you to sign a book for us or something.
Absolutely.
Sure.
I'd be happy to.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's 10 o'clock, guys. I don't know if you want to wrap it. We normally try to go for at least an hour. We could talk forever for you, but maybe we'll have you back sometime and discuss more of the stuff that you've got going on. Because I'd love to hear more about, some of your other books as well, too. But we don't want to hold you up all night.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for having me on the show. I absolutely appreciate
it. Thank you for coming. Absolutely. Yeah, and we'll stay in touch. We'll see you in May, and we'll definitely keep in touch, and maybe we'll have you back on sometime and go over some more of the stuff that you're involved with for sure. For sure.
I'll send a file to you then in your email.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us.
Scott, thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
Thanks.
Bye.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.